Welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County. I'm just one of your hosts, Sean Boyle. With me is
Ashley Moss.
Is that the name of our show?
Today.
Okay. I think I just threw everything off. But welcome to the half-hour show, courtesy of our great partnership that we have with St. Lucie Public Schools. If you want to know more about this show or all their programming, check your local cable guide, look for WLX TV. Otherwise, do what I do, which is what my son taught me, which is now dominates the way I watch TV, is
100%.
Go to YouTube, look up WLX St. Lucie, find all their programming, get plugged in, get connected, and you can even find this show that goes back, I think, 10 plus years. When I had no hair.
We're not sure.
Ashley was 12 at the time.
That's true.
We recruited her for the show. But
just out of high school.
Outside of entertainment, what this show is we talk about resources and things that are available in our great community we call St. Lucie County. Now, we at the Children's Services Council, despite 10 years of experience, not getting any better at this part of it.
No.
But what we do well and for our communities, we focus on 5 priorities, and those priorities are: 1, making sure every baby's a healthy baby; 2, stopping child abuse before it happens; 3, keeping kids off the streets. You're doing that with aggression today.
I am.
4, keeping kids in school; and 5, keeping kids off drugs, alcohol, and other risky behaviors. And when I say that we focus on those, what we do is we track indicators in those 5 priorities, and we're going to talk about that today. And we fund and make available programs available in those 5 broad categories that are available to all families in our community.
That is right. And all family, emphasis on all families. It's something that we talk about often.
Can I share the story?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Strategic planning session about 10 years ago. Maybe, I don't know, time's an abstract after COVID. But we had a strategic planning session. We spent multiple hours, goals and all that, and we worked on the mission statement. And the only thing that we did with the mission statement
was add the word all.
Add the word all in all capital letters.
It's important, though.
It's important.
It's an important part, and we use this show often to introduce to you programs that are partnered with us in the community, and kind of share what they're doing and who they're working with. But truthfully, those programs are available to everyone in this community. So it is a really cool part of what we get to do every day, and we're going to talk about what that looks like in our community a little bit more today. Surprise, we don't have a guest. It's newsflash.
So this whole show,
it's just me and Sean today.
This whole
You're
show
welcome.
is about bringing guests on, and guess what? We have no guests.
It's the summer, it's hard, but despite the information that we share on the show, there is lots of places that you can get connected to our programs. One of them obviously is on our website at cscslc.org. We have a list of all of our funded program partners there, along with their contact information. So if there is ever anything that you're looking for your family, for your coworker, for a congregation member, that is a really good place because it kind of has a quick glimpse of what each of those programs do, along with phone numbers to get connected to them. But as always, if there's something that maybe you can't find or you have questions about them, you can call our office. People still do that. Mel typically will be the one who answers the phone, and she's great about figuring out what it is that you're looking for and making a connection for you. So website, phone number, however you want to get connected to us, please do that.
In the off chance that they actually want to call.
Sure, you want the phone number?
Because, it's funny,
who does
everybody
that
has
anymore?
a cell phone, right? For the most part, but rarely anybody calls anymore.
No, you can call the office
at
772-408-1100.
And I'm going to give first of all, when you were saying, our website is cscslc.org, because every nonprofit loves a good acronym, right?
Yeah.
And all I kept thinking was like the YMCA. We need to turn that into a little.
Oh, you want to dance?
I don't know what the S would look like.
Huh.
Think about that while we're doing the show.
Right.
Maybe at the end we'll synchronize that. But we are also on social media. The Book of Face, commonly known as Facebook and Instagram. Make sure that you like and follow us. Look up Children's Services Council St. Lucie County on Facebook. There are other Children's Services Council. I think there's 10 or 11 altogether. We clearly are the best one because we're from your community. But if you're on Instagram, because you're too cool for Facebook, but you're on Instagram, or IG as we call it in the office. We don't really call it that, but look up St. Lucie CSC.
Yep.
Because, we got to mix it up for the cool kids.
There's good information that we've been sharing on social media over the past couple of months. I think on our last show, we talked a little bit about our Summer Passport program that we do in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. That is going strong this summer. It gives kids who are participating in our summer camps an opportunity to experience local attractions, or the river, for lack of a better word. We found through conversation that a lot of the kids participating in our programs, despite living close to it, had never actually been on the river or been able to experience it. So There's lots of cool summer passport things happening. So pay attention to our social media. You'll get to see some of the businesses that are partnering with us and the chamber. And it's a really cool thing happening.
And I should throw out there, clearly we're stalling because we have no guests. No, I'm just kidding. What I should throw out there as well is, we talked about you can get information on our website. You can actually pick up the phone and call. You can go to social
People
media.
do that.
But we'll come in person and talk to any group of people.
Sure.
We have a couple of speaking engagements coming up, but either myself, Ashley, John, somebody from the office can come and talk about not only the resources that are available in our community, but also talk about the history of Children's Services Council, how we got started, what resources we offer, and the impact that it's had.
Yeah,
And we're going to kind of do some of that here today.
we are.
Because actually, we sat down and actually was like, what are we going to talk about? And we're like, we're going to find out in 28 minutes. We'll know what we talked about.
That is not an untrue statement. Before we get there, I do just want to say, because our community had some good news yesterday.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Specific to St. Lucie
How do you
Public
make an
Schools. Well, it's YMCA style, so you can do.
Yeah, there's a way, like I'm not coordinated.
Yeah,
enough.
no, you're not. You're not coordinated. But congratulations, big congratulations to St. Lucie Public Schools for being named an A district yesterday. Dr. Prince is a board member of ours, and we have had lots of conversation with him over the years of the path to an A. And so, big congratulations to him and all the staff and all the board members and everybody who has worked hard to get there. It's a huge accomplishment for us.
And it's, and we also have school board member Debbie
yes,
Holly
Miss
on our board
Holly,
as well. But it's interesting, or not interesting, it's just kind of fun to look at the history because, for a while, we were kind of like this, and then you could see the rise, if you will, and to come to this conclusion of an A is, I know it's a big deal. And congrats to everybody that works in the St. Lucie Public Schools, from the bus drivers to the teachers to the administrators and everybody in between.
The air conditioner guys.
The air conditioner guy, former teacher, not me, my wife. Yeah. All right. So we talked about the 5 priorities.
We did.
So I think we should cover a couple of them.
Okay.
As time allows, as they say in the business.
Okay.
So we are in the middle of summer. If you don't know that, the only reason why we're in the studio is because it's nice and cool here. Everywhere else, it's 1,000 degrees out. So
That's true.
So and we know that we ramp up our efforts in the summer. You mentioned summer camps, summer passports, and the reason why we ramp it up in the summer is because kids don't have school to go to, and we know when kids are home alone or unattended, they will find something to do. And 9 times out of 10, it's positive. 1 times out of 10, they make mistakes.
Yep.
We've all been there, done that. If you don't know that, think back to when you were a teenager and think about every single decision that you made. Judging by that face, you know that they weren't always good. So we want to make sure that they have something positive to do, and also something that works on their academics in a discreet way, right? But
Sneak it in there, yeah.
summer is eventually going to end, and parents are like, yes, summer's going to end. School people are like, yeah, don't remind us, it's coming. But summer will end. So our question is, what do you do with your child when school starts and you get off work at 5:36 and your child gets off at school at 2, 3, 4 o'clock? What are you doing with your child?
Where do they go?
You have young children?
I do.
This is a legitimate question.
I have 3, and actually, it's a transition year for us. So I have 2 that are going to new schools for the first time, and all of my kids are going to be out of school by 2 o'clock, which is crazy because that's early in the day for me. I've sometimes not eaten lunch by 2 o'clock. You know that.
Yes, I don't know how you do that, but yes.
So it is an important time, and especially for, in my situation, my kids who are transitioning into middle school and into high school, those are big years. Those are big jumps for kids sometimes. So having a place for them to be where they feel supported, and where someone is paying attention to their academics, and where someone really is just there as a positive person to listen to or to talk to, is really important. And so the programs that we have that are in our priority area that we call Keeping Kids Off the Streets, which really is just a way to bucket our after-school programs, after school and summer, really provide that for a child. They provide a safe, positive place for them to be with an adult who cares about them.
Right, and
Very simply.
We've talked about this on this show before. When you boil down all the research about what makes an effective program, it really comes down to just a connection with an adult.
It only
And
takes one.
And so hopefully your child does have the connection with you as their primary caregiver, but why not in an after-school setting let them bond with another adult that's just going to uplift them even more, learn social interactions with their peers, and more importantly, or just as importantly, I should say, is get that homework done before you come pick them up. So you don't have to have that battle that I had the battle scars from. Same from, I always joke, this is really true of my daughter, was, look, you have a half hour's worth of homework. We've been arguing for an hour and a half about it. If you had just done it, it would be done. Or just work on it, it would be done. We'll work on that English later. But I say all this to say parents, caregivers, grandparents, go to our website, look at all of our after-school program offerings. I believe do you know how many locations?
I think during the year there's 17, somewhere between 17 and 19. It expands obviously in the summer, but there's somewhere between 17 and 19 locations. Most of them are offered at low or no cost. And so really great opportunities for kids. One of the things that I think is so interesting about a lot of the programs that we work with in that category are that they recognize that keeping kids entertained sometimes requires a little bit of a hook, a little bit of a pull. So a lot of them use either performing arts or music or sports, something to keep them engaged. And so a lot of our programs have offerings like that they'll do once homework is completed and things are done to give kids an opportunity to pursue those things that they're interested in.
So, I brought some receipts to talk about why your child should be enrolled in one of our after-school programs. Because, as Ashley mentioned, when we contract with a program, we have expectations or what we call outcomes that we hope to achieve. And those outcomes are centered around good decision-making, academics, and attending school.
Yep.
So I brought receipts.
I like that.
And if you want to know, if you're like Sean, we got to find a good after-school program. You can go to our website. They're east, south, northwest. I did that in completely the wrong order. But you can download our program accountability report, which will show you their accomplishments, their individual program accomplishments. But aggregately, this is what they accomplished. 84% of the kids in our after-school programs improved their academics. That's pretty good, right?
That's pretty good.
84% had had 3 or less unexcused absences. Because you may think, well, why is an after-school program worried about school attendance? Well, if you're working on academics, the obvious follow-up or the obvious connection is to make sure that they're actually attending school.
You have to be there.
And if they're not attending school, please find out why. You have that connection with the family. Help them out. And then 85% increased judgment and decision-making and social interaction skills. And we measure that by whether they had an involvement with juvenile justice and or had a school discipline referral. So that's around 84-85% of our kids in those programs, and there's thousands of them.
I was going to say
excelling.
Yeah, and I think at last count, maybe this may be our data at the halfway point of this current year, but there were about 6,000 kids in this priority area.
Something like that.
Somewhere around that. So you got to figure that's a huge impact that we're having on the kids that are attending these programs. And it's not just those. Obviously, it's a lot more than that they're being impacted by. That's just one piece of it. But the impact that these programs and that their involvement in the programs is having is really significant.
And so we'll just name out a few names, and we'll put everybody on the spot. I forgot the list of programs, but Boys and Girls Club is the big boy on the block. Everybody's heard of the Boys and Girls Club. The YMCA, End It, which focuses on middle school and older kids around performing arts. Lindsay School of the Arts, same. Future Generations, music-oriented. Frontline for Kids, just to name a few actually. I feel like I'm leaving people out, but Save Our Children, many programs like that. So make sure, again, you check out our website. And while we're in the middle of the summer is the best time to identify which program you and your family are interested in. Maybe take a quick tour, talk to somebody there and get your child enrolled.
We do actually, from conversations that I know our program specialists are having with them, a lot of those programs end up retaining their summer kids to stay with them during the year. So some of them are already full for August, even though school hasn't even started yet. So if there's one that's close to school or close to home, definitely take a look and see if it might be something your child would be interested in, because they will fill up quickly.
And we're knee deep in data, and so I can tell you, even if you let's say I'm making up, you want to go to this program, but there's a waiting list. Get on that waiting list, because I promise you, when school starts, family situations change and they start going through that waiting list.
Yes, definitely.
All right, I'm going to shift gears.
Okay.
I'm just jumping around.
I'm
All right, let's
here
talk
for
about
it.
our newest citizens,
Okay.
our youngest citizens, newborns.
Yeah. The babies.
Was that a weird that was a weird transition.
Gosh, that reminds me of Lorna and how she
Bibis?
Bibis. Yeah.
One of our priorities is ensuring every baby's a healthy baby, or I always mispronounce it and say making sure every baby's a healthy baby.
Whatever.
Same difference.
The sentiment is the same.
We are laser focused on making sure that our newborns and newborn families have resources right from the jump. And so one of our promises that we make to families in our community, when they give birth, when a mother gives birth in St. Lucie, this is a weird, mother gives birth in St. Lucie County, depending on how it goes, you may spend, typically it's 4 to 8 hours. If it's a straightforward birth, if it's complicated, you may spend a week. But then you go home with the greatest responsibility anybody can ever have.
And no directions.
And no directions. And if you have a manual, it's for the wrong child, I promise you. and so you take that baby home, and then we have a program. It's a volunteer program, but roughly about 82 to 85% of all births take advantage of this. A registered nurse will come to the home within the first week of you returning home with the baby. And it's a non-judgmental visit. It's really just to check on the mom. It's to check on the baby. Check out the stress level of the father. Talk about maybe what they should be doing, because I don't care, and this is from personal experience. I have 2 children. Our firstborn, my wife could not wait to be a mother. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go with it.
Yeah, totally.
I'm joking. We read all the books, and I don't care what happens. I've yet to meet a mom that has given birth at 12 p.m. after an hour of labor. It's usually, 8 hours
Middle
of
of the
labor
night.
at 2 a.m. I don't care if you read all those books. You go home, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're a little overwhelmed, but yet you're in love with this newborn. You want to do everything possible for this newborn. So that registered nurse comes and kind of gives you that confidence, checks on the health of the mother, health of the baby. This program has literally saved lives, but also just make sure that connection is there. And we do this because if we can get that family to feel confident early and bond early, we're setting them up for success.
And I think the point that you made about confidence is important, because a lot of times we hear from maybe second-time moms who did or didn't receive the visit with their first child, but even going into that second child, we're like, I forgot this, and it wasn't something that I had been thinking about, and I just needed someone to tell me that I was doing the right thing or making the right choices. And so that confidence part is a big piece of it. But we also, to your point, this program has saved lives. They have visited moms who were having severe complications after birth, and the nurse was there to catch it, or the baby was having severe complications after birth, and the nurse was there to catch it and immediately get them into the doctor's office. So there are a lot of benefits to having this program in existence, and obviously we love that it's available to, again, all families in our community. So any baby that is born in St. Lucie County is eligible for this visit, but it doesn't stop there. So through our continuum of care, those families are also eligible to receive a developmental specialist visit within about 2 to 3 months, where that specialist will come out and talk to them about brain development, what the baby should be doing at this point, what the baby should be doing 6 months from now, and also sign them up for what's commonly known as the Ages and Stages questionnaire, which literally follows them for 48 months and kind of does that developmental check-in on, is my child doing what they're supposed to be at this time? And if they aren't, what do I need to do to kind of get them caught up? And so between those 2 programs and actually a handful of others that kind of filter in, babies in our community have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and I have a personal story with the whole Ages and Stages questionnaire. My son, who's now 25, and hopefully he's not going to watch the show, we did the Ages and Stages questionnaire on him, and we noticed that on the questionnaire he was behind. We brought it to our pediatrician's attention. We waited a couple months, and then come to find out he was in fact behind. And so if you intervene early enough with some of these delays, you can actually mitigate them a little bit. And so my son had to, and this is through another program, the Easter Seals Early Steps program, had to have speech, physical, and occupational therapy twice a week, and from the ages of 18 months to 3 years of age, 36 months. And think about that as a family. I was younger, 25 years younger. Those therapies were out of our price range if we had to pay for them full cost. And so we help eliminate that obstacle to make those therapies available so that babies can get caught up. And proud to say that, he's a master's degree kid and working for
He's doing great.
Florida State. So all you Gator fans, I apologize. He's working for Florida State University. But that's just, the nurse home visit and the program Ashley described, the Baby Connections program, that's just part of our system.
Right.
So we also have something called doulas, which are like pregnancy and birth coaches.
Yeah.
That really focus on, particularly in high-risk areas, zip codes that maybe have high infant mortality. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And so they can get a doula that's usually from their community, connect with them. They become their like birth partner, if you will, and not only walks them through a successful pregnancy, but a successful birth. And we also have lactation consultants because we know the science says that the longer a child breastfeeds, the less health complications they'll have.
Yep.
So these are all good stuff.
All good stuff. And you, again, brought receipts.
I brought receipts. I didn't bring the right receipt, but I brought a receipt.
You have receipts to back that up because, Sean talked about us being a data-driven organization, and we have all the data from our programs. We require them to give it to us, to share it with us. But we also monitor what that looks like in the community. And, we don't have any inclination to think that just our programs are making this impact. Obviously, it takes a large group of people working together to get to the same outcome. But a lot of what our programs are working on are having an impact on these things that we pay attention to in the community, like infant mortality. So talk about that one, because that's a big one that's happened recently.
This is kind of an odd stat to talk about. Infant mortality is defined by a birth and a baby that passes away before 12 months. And so for the longest time, and I want to say we've reduced it by, close to 60-something%. But the state is at 6 out of 1,000 births will pass away.
Yeah.
We are at 4 out of 1,000. And that's by a concerted effort because for a while we were above the state average. So in partnership with the hospitals, the health department, Healthy Start, all these entities, we identified which babies were most at risk, and I know we're not allowed to say at risk, most at hope, and we identified zip codes, and we put programming in there, and as recently as last 5 years, we've seen a steady decline, so that strategy is working.
And truthfully, a lot of it was just education around some of the risk factors associated with it, and giving them those opportunities to have a partner or a doula or a nurse that kind of walked with them through the process.
Well, and we recognized that we had this system of care, but not everybody was entering that system of care. So we worked on strategies, not just us, many partners worked on strategies to get more families engaged, and we're seeing the results of that.
Yep.
And if we can save baby lives, that's huge, right? That's priority number one.
That's it.
All right, we got a few minutes left. And I want to talk about one more.
Your favorite thing to talk about is insurance. I know.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll talk about that. I was going to switch categories.
Okay.
Insurance, yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So, healthcare, you may think, oh, children, they're young, they bounce back from everything. Yes, but they also crash into everything, let's be honest.
Yes.
If a kid hasn't broken his arm before the age of 14, has he had a childhood?
Mine especially.
Right. Like I didn't ever broke arms, but I broke toes and fingers. I still break toes and fingers. But it's so important that children have health insurance and a family has a medical home. And what we mean by a medical home is we just talked about the mothers getting them care and hooking them up with services. But what about the children? And a lot of that starts with health care. And so there's this great program in the state of Florida called Kid Care, Healthy Kids. It's a health insurance program. It's actually multiple health insurance programs all wrapped into one envelope. And it can be a little convoluted to navigate, especially as you move around or your economics change. They may shift you to one program or another, and you may not know it. So what did we do? We knew that a lot of families were getting enrolled in Healthy Kids, but then what would happen is a year later, they didn't realize that they maybe moved, they changed jobs. Healthy Kids sent the paperwork to an address that didn't exist. They go show up at the doctor, you don't have health insurance. And you don't want to go to doctors without health insurance because it's going to cost a bunch. And so we have navigators that will walk families through the application process, the renewal process, all that around Healthy Kids and Kid Care. And it's just been, we've seen our insurance rate drop, and I think when we started this, again, data-driven, I want to say it was 2012, 2014, we had almost a quarter of our children did not have health insurance.
Right.
That's alarming.
Yeah.
That's alarming. I mean, think about it. Think about, we're already talking about summer, right? And to get to school, you know, you got to make sure that your doctor has you have your child has a physical, if they're
yeah.
performing sports, if they might have to have immunizations. That all requires you to go to the doctor.
Yep.
So anyway, our uninsured rate is now 7% of our children don't have health insurance, from 24, a little over 24 to 7%. That's great momentum. We're going to
do better.
We're going to do better. Look, I'll be honest with you. We got it at 3% one year, and that's our goal. We're trying to get that at 3%. So if you know any family that doesn't have health insurance for their children, even if they have health insurance for them through their employer, but they don't have health insurance for their children, the great thing about this service that's offered is that you can make $1 million a year. You can still go on Healthy Kids. You're just going to pay the full cost of the insurance. It's still cheaper than the private insurance rate. And the best part of it is, right now, knocked on wood,
right now,
it doesn't have deductibles. Anybody that has health insurance, the frustrating part about health insurance is always the deductible.
Yeah.
But for the insurance for children, which also includes dental, there's no deductible.
And behavioral now too is included in that. So if it's something you're looking for, information's on our website. The program is run through the food bank. It's
Treasure Coast Food Bank.
It's amazing. But you can ask us or the food bank about that if you have any questions.
So we have like 2 minutes left. Do you think we can cover one category in 2 minutes?
Sure, if you talk really fast.
All right, speed talk. It's going to be like an auctioneer. So I want to talk about, because all of the categories that we're kind of talking about, I feel like are centered around safety of our community, safety of moms and newborns, safety of the community, make sure that kids are off the streets and doing something productive, safety of the kids, safety of the community. The last one I want to talk about is our category, stopping child abuse before it happens. As a former child abuse investigator, child abuse usually centers around domestic violence, drug addiction, or alcohol, and or bad parenting. And bad parenting is handed down. Let me rephrase that. Bad parenting. You as parents, have you ever said something that's come out of your mouth and you're like, oh my gosh, my mom or dad used to say the exact same thing? It's generational. So how do we stop child abuse? We stop bad parenting. We get in there and intervene. So we have many programs that will go into the home, not as, not with the white glove going, this is a bad situation, as an advocate to get that family through that crisis, teach them proper parenting skills, and change child abuse and change parenting for generations. Because again, if we can get in there early and we can change the way that you parent in a positive way, you're going to remember that and you're going to parent that way moving forward.
Right. And again, a lot of it is just education, information that they didn't have before. So it's not you're bad, you're doing a terrible job. It's literally just, what about this? And so we have made significant changes in our community through these programs. And Sean has receipts, as always.
I have receipts, yes. So real quick, in the last 50 seconds or so, we track these. It works with close to 3,000 families a year. And these are families that are usually having some type of crisis. They can't afford to live where they're living, or they're living in a car, or there's been, smoke from, there's a suspect of abuse or neglect. They'll go in, and the receipts are, we track those families 1 year after services have stopped. And last year, 100% of those families did not abuse or neglect their child, which is a huge success.
Huge success.
Keeping our community safer, and more importantly, just as importantly, keeping our kids safe.
Yes.
All right, we're out of time.
You did it.
We did it with no guest. High five. All right. We will have a guest next month. But we thank you for tuning in. Again, check out our website, cscslc.org, or give us a call. We'll come out and present all this information if you like. And a reminder that it's our children, our community, our future. Now more than ever, we're all in this together. We'll see you next time.